Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Paul Hayne, North Texas Market President of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas.
Thank you. And good afternoon, and thanks for being here today. I am Dr. Paul Hayne, North Texas Market President for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. I'm excited to be here today for what is essentially a celebration. And Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas is pleased to be the presenting sponsor of the Dallas Regional Chamber of State of the City, yet again, because we believe in this event and we believe in the Dallas Regional Chamber. We're strong supporters of the DRC's key initiatives, bringing more companies to Dallas and strengthening the economy, which allows us to provide health coverage to even more of our fellow Texans, advocating for better educational opportunities for our local students and our youth to have a greater opportunity to grow and to engage in our community, and of course by attracting talented workers from which we all benefit from a better educated workforce. And the Dallas Regional Chamber has faithfully executed these initiatives for over 100 years, which I think deserves a round of applause. Absolutely. But like I said earlier, this is essentially a celebration. We are not only celebrating Mayor Rawlings and the incredible 8 years under his leadership, but we are soon to be celebrating our birthday. That's right. Dallas is where Blue Cross was born nearly 90 years ago. In fact, in 1929, yes, thank you, Dale. In 1929, mere weeks after the great stock market crash, and in the midst of one of the worst Dallas winters, Justin Ford Kimball began to operate the group hospitalization plan right here in downtown Dallas. The plan was a little simpler back then. 50 cents a month, I know, in exchange for up to 21 days of care at Baylor Hospital. And eventually, this type of plan led to the idea of health insurance on which the Blue Cross movement was founded. Of course, we haven't lasted 90 years on our own. Chances are many of you in this room are members of the Blue Cross family, and if you aren't, you can see me later. And that has helped make Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas the largest health benefit provider in the state, which means if you have a Blue Cross card today, you are an integral part of the legacy that has been built by Blue Cross over 90 years, as well as the future that we will build for the 90 years to come. So on behalf of our team at Blue Cross, Blue Shield of Texas, I would like to sincerely thank the employers and members in this room who have made celebrating 90 years in Texas possible. And speaking of celebrations, it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest. Mike Rawlings is the 61st mayor of Dallas and the longest serving mayor in more than 57 years. I know. He will, yes. He will finish his term in June 2019 as the third longest serving mayor in Dallas history. And the statistics are amazing. I'm just going to say a couple. During his 7+ years in office, Dallas has experienced tremendous economic growth, with the overall property value in the city increasing over 55% from $83 billion to over $130 billion. The city's labor force has grown every year of his terms. Unemployment is now 3.4%, and this is the 44th consecutive month that Dallas has equaled or outperformed the national and state unemployment rate. Yeah. And even more importantly, this success is not confined to one area of the city. Through the Mayor's Grow South initiative, we've led to major progress in southern Dallas. The city is the safest it has been in decades, and we are grateful for all the incredible work of the Dallas Police Department. Thank you, Dallas Police Department. Now, this is the part where I give Mayor Rawlings' biography, and I'm not going to do that because you've heard it all before, and his family would really like me to not do it again. What is important is that he is here with his family, and they're just delightful. Mickey is here, their daughter Michelle, their son Gunnar, and his wife Gabby, all of whom live here in Dallas. And for today's presentation, we have a real treat. Joining Mayor Rawlings on stage to lead the conversation is Rudy Bush, Deputy Editorials Editor at the Dallas Morning News. Before joining the Dallas Morning News as a City Hall reporter in 2007, Rudy had a distinguished run as a reporter for the Chicago Tribune and earlier for the San Antonio Express News. He was named D Magazine's Best Columnist in 2014, and in 2015, he was selected as the inaugural recipient of the Robert W. Deckard Award for Civic Journalism. Rudy is a graduate of the University of Dallas, and he now serves as the university's Director of Journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Rudy Bush, Mayor Rawlings.
Paul just did my whole thing, so.
Well, let's go.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that, Paul. Well, you and I have been doing this together for a little while, actually. We first met in 2008 when you were homeless czar, I think, and then on to Parks Board. We normally don't have this big an audience for our Q&As, right? But in those days when you were starting to think about running for mayor, starting to think about what you would do if you became mayor, we had a number of conversations about what the vision would be and what you would like to accomplish. And my recollection of those conversations is there was a good bit of conversation about growth, arresting the poverty in southern Dallas. The problem with vision is that it meets reality, right? And the reality of being a mayor is a heck of a lot different than the vision necessarily that you lay out. So I was hoping just to kind of set the stage, if you could talk a little bit about where reality and vision crossed for your mayoralship.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this.
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate it, and congratulations on your career. Thank you to the Chamber, too, the partnership that we've had for my tenure and what you mean to this city and the whole region, okay? And there's mayors from all over the region here, and we work together. But, yeah, I didn't know what to expect as being a mayor. I had been a business person my whole life, and so when you were faced with that, you kind of go back to what you know. I think you need to be authentic about what you do know. And I knew organizations needed, when you set kind of visions for them, you need to understand what their DNA is, because great organizations don't lose that. And you've got to figure out how to leverage that DNA. And then figure out some card up your sleeve, some game changer that nobody had thought about. And that's kind of how I looked at Dallas. The first thing was I realized that Dallas, it was just pretty simple. We were Big D, okay? Yeah. We were the home of Gene McDermott and the great TI world. Eric Johnson said, "Dream no small dreams." We had Ross Perot create EDS. We had Herb Kelleher with his glass of whiskey drawn lines and napkins to develop Southwest Airlines. Stanley Marcus took on Paris. I mean, we have Jerry Jones and Mark Cuban, and it's kind of this swagger that was out there. And I felt that we had lost a little bit of that, okay? We had not lived up to some of those expectations. And I said, that's not going to change. People come from all over the country to be part of this. And we've got to make sure that we continue to spread that belief. And then second, I felt that Southern Dallas, I knew North Dallas was going to be great. North Dallas Chamber does a fabulous job. And downtown Dallas was you could see the tipping point from there. But nobody had really dealt with Southern Dallas, the largest part of our land mass, and a great opportunity. And so I said, aha, if we leverage Southern Dallas and bring back that swagger, maybe that's the formula for success. And the Southern Dallas thing was not just a geographic issue. It was a bit of a metaphor for including everybody in this growth. Because Dallas had been historically Tale of Two Cities and that sort of thing. But we've got to make sure that that growth that we want to all have includes everybody, whether you're African American, whether you're Latino, whether you're LGBT, whatever the issue is, that everybody feels part of this team. And so that was kind of my go-to-market strategy. And I made speeches about it and feel pretty good about the first thing. I think we got our swagger back, and I think we're making progress in the second.
The things that I'm thinking about where reality hits vision are when you come up against something like Ebola, or you come up against something that's unthinkable for a city like 7/7.
Yeah.
And we have a tradition of electing people from business into your seat in Dallas. Well, when you face a crisis of public leadership like that, or a crisis that needs public leadership, where did you go? What were you thinking during those times?
Well, first of all, you've got your clear role that you've got to play in the government system. It was great to have a great partner like Clay Jenkins in doing the Ebola thing and understanding who's going to play. Chief Brown was a great partner during 7/7. But I come back to that narrative. Narratives are very important to me. So if we're going to if we're going to put the big back into big D, we take on big challenges. We become inclusive in a big way. We make sure that our neighborhoods are the best they can be. And so when you face issues like that, then you come back and use that discussion and say, how would Dallas act? How would we be to the world about those issues? And how do we leverage that? And that was always a good ballast for my ship to come back to those thoughts. And one of the first issues we had to deal with, I realized as being mayor, was we were going to memorialize 50 years since the JFK shooting. Right. And the world looks at us as a city of hate, okay? And it was great to get Lawrence Wright, who wrote The Looming Towers the other day, told me, Mayor, and he went to Woodrow and he graduated, but he hadn't been back here for years. And he says, somehow you guys have changed that city of hate thing to be an antidote for hate. And I took that as a tremendous compliment.
Yeah, it is, because you don't know when the hot lights are going to shine on a city, and they come in these moments, and that's when everyone's looking.
You don't prepare for leadership. You lead every day, and every once in a while a light comes in and sees whether you're leading or not.
So we've got a little slideshow, I think, to go through some areas that Paul touched on and that I want to touch on as well and ask you some questions about. And the material in front of you represents the growth and progress of the city really since we emerged from the recession in 2012. And you can see, obviously, the spike in growth. And one of the things that anyone who comes to Dallas is going to recognize immediately are the number of cranes that are doing work and all the pain around that, but also the benefit around that. So talk a little bit about the city's recovery from recession, its growth and progress, and what that's meant not only to those who are experiencing the best part of that growth, but those who maybe are left out of it.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that chart shows. One, we were the last to go into the recession and the first to come out. So there was some strength in this city through kind of the turn of the decade there. But we were paying the price for it early on while our administration was there. But once we got that behind us, we took off. Now, the region has grown as well, but we got more than our fair share of that. The question, two questions I look at that. One, is that good? Okay. Do we want that growth? Because at times people go, wait a minute, stop. I don't want all this growth. And second, can it be sustainable?
Right.
And I think the first question is, yes, this is good because it allows us to provide the quality of life that we all want for ourselves and to invest in other places that we were not able to invest in. Yeah. Plus, it allows us a chance to not stop the car, if you will, when we run over a big bump like the pension fund or settling a lawsuit. We have enough horsepower to kind of continue to make that happen. I will tell you, this is part of this narrative, too. The question is, do you want this curve to continue to happen in the next 20 years, or do you want it to kind of slow down and flatten off? That's a big question this city is going to have to wrestle with in the coming years. I believe that we're in as James Clifton called it, a jobs war out there with cities, and we just saw it with Amazon, and cities and countries, and that we want to continue to grow. As Woody Allen said, love is like a shark. It's got to keep moving forward or it dies, And it's sort of like that's the way the city is. I mean, it's got to keep moving forward, and so I think that's important. Is it sustainable? That's pretty steep, okay? Yeah. That's 50-some% in the last 6 years. So that's sort of those metrics, 8-9% year over year, if you can do the math, is pretty tough. But I do believe if our state legislature helps us, and there's a few legislators here I know, thank you for supporting it, and we deal with some of the issues that this city has, that we are in a much better situation than anybody in the nation.
From my vantage, the tension comes not in the question of whether you grow, but how you grow, right? Mm-hmm. And an area
where I don't know. How you grow can determine if you're going to grow or not.
Sure, and you can grow backwards, I guess.
Yeah.
One area that you and I have had some disagreements on over the years is sort of the outgrowth of this curve that we're looking at, which is how we get around every single day. And we had a lot of conversations about the Trinity Toll Road before my board reversed its position on that. I know that as mayor, you never hear anything about potholes and whether those should be filled. But transportation is a much bigger and more complex question than just the little things that we hear about. So I want you to talk a little bit about where you began and where you are now on the question of mobility and transportation and how the city should grow around those questions.
Well, first of all, let's deal with the potholes, because that's unacceptable. I think
You can applaud for that,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. The citizens have made that clear, and the city council, I think, agrees with everybody. We've got more money in our city budget now on dealing with repairs of those sides because we're growing, okay, and we're able to do that. Plus, we passed a major bond package last year, if you remember that, and I think $500 million is there to spend that money. So we're going to try to get the streets in better repair. A mobility strategy has got to work at several levels. One is the local and kind of neighborhood level, and we've got to make sure our neighborhoods are strong, whether they're Lakewood or North Oak Cliff or Pleasant Grove or Lake Highlands, and people want to be able to get to their schools, and they want to walk their babies in a baby carriage at the same time, and it needs to be very livable. And so as we think through that, the little things are important there. But then you kind of copter up a little bit and you say, we've got a big city that a lot of people work in different places. So one of the reasons I was a proponent of the Parkway was we had so many people in the southeast Dallas working in the Love Field area that it's tough for them to get to work and get back to help their kids with homework and all the like. And so I think we've got a better plan now with a city map. We've created a city map with a TxDOT, so the major thoroughfares are we're getting aligned around those major thoroughfares. One of the things I want to do is when we widen I-30 is to drop it below grade so we connect East Dallas and South Dallas as well. I want to make sure we've got everything, every tool in the toolbox, and when the state takes away managed lanes from us, we can't repair and improve 635 the way it needed to be done. And those issues have got to be dealt with. And then lastly, mobility outside of our city. Dallas DNA is commerce and it's business, and being able to get to New York and back on the same day is important. And what we've invested in aviation is remarkable. What happened to Love Field after the Wright Amendment is phenomenal, okay? Bursting at the seams there. And DFW didn't miss a beat in that time. There'll be over 90 million passengers fly into the area every year now, and so it'll continue to grow. DFW is a concern, I will tell you, because we're running out of gates. American Airlines is our big partner there, and they have told us that they are continuing to put DFW front and center in their growth plans. And so we've got to deal with how we're going to expand DFW and put what will be billions of dollars back into that to make sure we're ready for the next 30 or 40 years. I will tell you, we've got a great board, a great CEO in Sean Donahue, but we got a great partnership with Betsy Price. She and I got together the week after we both got elected, and we said, we got to stop this feuding and work together. And ever since then, we've been kissing cousins, okay? We've been...
We'll just let that sit for a minute. And more scooters for everyone?
Well, that's the other point. I mean, think about this. When I became mayor, we didn't even know what Uber was. And everybody goes, oh, my God, Uber, we're going to screw Uber up, okay? And, you know, how do we make this happen? Uber loves us so much. We are the #1 market for Uber Elevate, which is their air taxis. It's us in Dubai, okay? And yes.
Well, we're the #1 because there are two, right?
Well, in North America.
Yeah.
Okay, North America. Yeah. But anyway, long story short, then we have bikes for rent, and that doesn't work out. And now we've got scooters, and scooters seem to be working out. So you don't know what's happening to put a mobility strategy together like you've got it all figured out. Part of it is to keep your head on a swivel and see what's coming.
I saw a Lime bike in Phoenix this week, and I thought that was a long way. I want to switch to a separate topic, and this question of crime is really a reverse corollary to the question of growth and prosperity and all the things that you want to be able to do as a city. And in Dallas, we've tracked along with the national trends of steeply falling crime, and particularly steeply falling violent crime, and this graph represents that. The difficulty with the question of crime, and you and I have attended many, many neighborhood meetings, and this is the first thing that tends to come up, is crime is a personal experience. And so you can show a chart and a graph like this all day, but if someone doesn't feel safe in their neighborhood, if they've experienced a crime against themselves or against a loved one, then all of the sense of safety evaporates, and you really can't accomplish what you need to accomplish. So what I want to ask you about is, what do you think Dallas can do, first to continue this trend, but also to make that feeling, or to expand that feeling into every neighborhood of the city?
Well, first of all, you have to tell what the facts are, and that's why this chart, I think, is important. We do live in the safest time from a per capita standpoint than we have in decades. I mean, it's just remarkable, the drop in all crime. You see violent crime there is not dropped as much, but the base is lower, and that's why we prioritize the violent crimes over the other crimes. Now, the question is, what's the so what of all that? And to me, it says that we've got the right policies in place, that we're continuing to see this, that ultimately dealing with social issues is important here, and not just the crime, and that people are very important. Fortunately, I had two great chiefs and a great interim to work with David Brown and Chief Hall, and Chief Hughes stood in for a while, and we've got excellent, excellent people. And then we've got a great police force. The problem was we have experienced a real existential issue with our police force because of the pension fund. And so we had to kind of take that head on to make sure that we had retirement plans for everybody. And our pension fund was, the hole in the bucket was huge, and they were hemorrhaging money. And so I hate to ever take action by myself, but I had to personally sue the pension fund to stop the outgoing of money, to give our state legislatures, and Senator Royce West will be my friend forever, to helping me give us a chance for the retirement for these officers. And so we've, I think, invested over, I've got the numbers here, $250 million over the next 7 years. We'll be putting $1.1 billion in this thing. So real money is going in. We've got the management in place now from a board standpoint. We negotiated to make sure the mayor had majority control on the board, and we've got 6 great managers. It's a question for the future mayors. Are you going to make sure you have fiscal conservatives and prudent people on that board? It's extremely important. But that was the reason that we have right now a big issue, and that is a hole of 500 or so officers that we need to be filling. The city council gave them raises, and so we are now competitive at the entry-level position, and hopefully that will help Chief Hall recruit those officers. We've gotten rid of the lawsuit that was out there for decades. We spent about $230 million of your money to settle a lawsuit for something I don't think the city ever did. But we wanted to get that cloud away. So hopefully we're all on the same page now, and we can work together towards decreasing that crime. And I believe our police officers are great. I will say another thing. It's not just about money, guys. Being a police officer is the hardest job in America today, all right? You have to be tough, you have to be hardworking, you have to be a civil rights attorney, you have to be photogenic on iPhone, you have to do so many, and by the way, make sure you're not killed like we've had and get back to your family. And it's hard. And so we've got to continue to honor our police officers as we think through how America is going to be safe, because we want young men and women to come into it.
Would you say that ranks as one of your most difficult challenges as mayor, is dealing with these times when police officers are either taken from us, or in other scenarios where police officers are engaged in things or do things that fall short of what they should be?
No question. I mean, let's take the second. I mean, you've got 0.05% of officers that screw up, and you want to be honest and deal with those things, and the press asks you tough questions, but you know that 99% of these folks are fabulous, and then on the other hand, you see them being killed. What happened at the Home Depot up in North Central, that just broke my heart to see that happen. And so there's a fine line that we're all dealing with, but fortunately, as I said, the crime's coming down. I feel good about it, but honesty and transparency is ultimately the right approach there.
Let's switch to another topic. Everyone in this room knows that we lost HQ2 with Amazon, but the sense that came out of that for me was that the narrative was a lot different from when we lost Boeing, and that people felt like we put our best foot forward, we put the best city possible forward, and it's your loss, Amazon, not ours. And I think the difference around that has to do with the changes that the city made strategically since Boeing, and one of the most important in that includes the decision that we need to have better green spaces, better park life, better quality of life for our residents. And so this slide represents parks that have opened in the city since you've been mayor, and all of these red circles. And anyone who spends any time downtown knows that there's been a tremendous amount of progress in greening the area. So I want you to talk a little bit about where we've come from, but where we need to go. What do we need to keep doing to make this city that much better, particularly in the green space?
Well, I felt the HQ2 thing was great because if you just went by their questionnaire, we had great scores. We beat everybody from cost of living to all the things we wanted. We didn't win because of other issues, but that's okay. We kind of looked at ourselves in the mirror and we saw it. And one of the things I saw was this, and I didn't realize. We knew we were working hard on parks and all the things, but we have greened up the city in a remarkable, remarkable fashion. You've got the chart, the map on the left here is from the Trust for Public Land. Everybody that is 10 minutes walk away from a park is in green, okay? So all the citizens that live there, and the only places that are brown is where the land is very expensive, okay, or there's not as many folks. Now, we need to continue to work on that. And the dots there that you see are new parks and trails that have opened since 2013. So I think when you start to tell the story of the history of Dallas, the role that parks and green space means to the economic growth, that line that we had, the quality of life, the happiness of our citizens. Citizen satisfaction continues to go up quantitatively when we look at that because we're investing it. Downtown, look, I remember when I got to open up Clyde Warren Park, one of the great things of cutting the ribbon, if you will, and the same at Below Gardens downtown. And Robert Deckert's work there in downtown parks is remarkable. But look at what's coming on down the road. We're going to have Carpenter Park, kind of close to the Deep Ellum area. That's going to green. We've got Harwood Park by Farmers Market. We've got Pacific Plaza that is going to be a huge green space that is going to be a great place for people that work and live down there. West End is going to be a smart park, so we've got those things happening. We're going to extend Clyde Warren Park and make that bigger. On Thursday night, you're going to see the first renderings of elements for the Harold Simmons Park in the Trinity River area that we were able to raise $50 million of private money for, and we're going to raise the rest. And I'm so excited because it's going to change things. We're going to have a deck park over 35 connecting North Oak Cliff and East Oak Cliff for the first time. We're going to have the largest bike loop around the city that we have spent money on, okay? And what I've been working on for 10 years when I was park board president was Fair Park. And finally we've got a private operator to kind of create that 365 experience. We're going to vote next week to extend the state fair contract. So now we've got a great state fair, great fair park, and we're going to put the park back into Fair Park, get rid of those concretes and put green space. This is an unbelievable story for Dallas, Texas, and we all just kind of forget about it because we drive by a park. And what we've done together is, I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I think, yeah. You can see it. You can see the difference, and you can see how it's altered the city and the way the city functions. We've seen a lot of positive slides so far. I want to look at some slides that aren't necessarily so positive. And the one thing that remains persistently with us is poverty in the city, and just a few miles from where we all sit right now enjoying the beauty of downtown and the wealth of downtown. We know that people live in abject circumstances. And you made the Grow South initiative a signature of your 8 years in office. You're now launching something called CPOW, which is an effort to bring together the chief executives of the major public institutions in our area to find data-driven solutions for problems that just won't go away. So how far have we come in addressing this question of poverty? What do we do next? If you could write the instruction book for the person who follows you, what would you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, I think we've taken this seriously, okay? I'm tired of all the studies that show we've got poverty, because I kind of figured that out real quick. Somebody else is tired of it too. But this chart shows it very clearly. The pink areas are the areas that someone lives that a majority live in poverty, at the poverty level, and they're segregated. So kind of the worst of the worst here. And so it's got to be taken very, very seriously. Now, that's a problem for Dallas. On the other hand, thank God for Dallas, as you copter out, you see that it's basically ourselves in Fort Worth that have this issue, because none of the rest of the counties or cities have got this. And poor Mayor Harry in Plano is catching grief when he tries to put a workforce plan together. So this is a regional opportunity. New business is regional, and our opportunities that we got to deal with are regional. The question is, what do you do about it? And one is the Grow South initiative, which is an economic development idea. And so it's so exciting to see what's happening in Jefferson Boulevard, West Dallas, Redbird, reimagining Redbird, the education corridor with all the logistics that are happening down there, and the jobs, hundreds and hundreds of jobs that are taking. The progress is amazing. We haven't made enough progress on Lancaster Keys and South Oak Cliff. We got a lot of work to do there. You see that we've gotten rid of a lot of blight, and we've built over 2,000 new middle-class homes, single standing homes. You start to see the economic growth is at North Dallas rates or better every year. So we are starting to grow. But it's in the little things, to me, that give me hope. The fact that we opened that Starbucks at Redbird last week, and the smiles and the belief in that community and those employees, those team members that had jobs and had careers, they just felt special. I was over at the first tee at the Trinity Forest Golf Club that the city council approved, and those young men and women that live 5 minutes away said, "Mayor, this is our home now, because our home, we got a house, but we don't have a place to be." And you have dozens and dozens of the young people, and you see that every week. I get to go, and you see buds of these things happening. So that's good. So economic development, but then there's some really difficult poverty issues. Right. And the reason we've got that is we've got the affordable housing and we've got the jobs. So people keep coming into our city, but we've got to make sure we deal with them. So I think the fact that all T.C. Broadnex, our city manager, Michael Hinojosa, the Lori LeRae at Workforce Solutions, Gary Thomas at DART, Fred Cerise at Parkland, all are getting together and say, let's fight this together. And to me, that's the learning. Too many silos in this city because we got too many different governmental organizations and not enough collaboration. And hopefully this will give us a blueprint, an active learning blueprint on how to deal with teenage pregnancy, how to deal with English as a second language, how to deal with the WIC programs in a thoughtful manner that we can all get behind and make some progress there.
It's sort of astounding it took us this long to bring something like that together, and so good for you for that. I I want to cover a couple of more areas before we depart. And this question of poverty is so intricately linked to the question of education. Mm-hmm. And the persistent problem for Dallas has been resolving the improvement of its public education. But I want to show a couple of pieces of information that I think are valuable for us to get maybe some data behind what's really happening in our public schools, which is a positive story and a story that can be more widely shared. This first slide indicates improvement among our students in meeting the standards on the state star test. Exactly. And so as you can see, there has been a good deal of upward progress that often doesn't get highlighted. And I think we have a slide after this one.
Well, I think that the big thing to me is the rate of growth here as well. Okay? I mean, we take our other peer cities, and we were kind of third, and now we're kind of number one in that area. So hats off to them there. But it's really also, the next slide shows about why that's happening.
Yeah, and this slide may be a little bit difficult for people who aren't familiar with these things to read, but the top bar there, principals, teachers, pre-K, this indicates the years in which DISD introduced programs aimed at helping to improve principal performance, helping to improve teacher performance, expanding pre-K to all eligible students, setting up ACE programs to help failing schools, and then setting up early college programs. And this is something certainly my editorial board has supported a great deal, and as you can see, there are measurable results. So the question, I guess, for you is, DISD is taking steps, and voters have acknowledged that in the last election by giving DISD a good bit of additional money to keep it going. How do we make sure that the city supports these efforts to continue to make DISD as good as it can be?
Well, first of all, I think it starts in the mayor's office. I mean, I got a lot of grief in kind of putting education front and center when I ran. Everybody said, well, then you ought to run for school board. Tom Leppert did it, okay, and I've decided to do it, and I hope the next mayor keeps education front and center in that regards. I remember back there in 2014 when I took on home rule, okay, which was a political mistake in some ways because a lot of people didn't like it, but it helped us put those programs in place, the best teacher evaluation program in the country. Being able to, the ACE thing is huge. Good teachers were always at good schools, but now we're paying them to go to the tougher schools and paying them more. And it's changing those. That's what equity really means. It means not everybody gets the same thing, but we're investing more money in other places.
Sort of leveraging market forces into the teaching profession.
Exactly, and now we've got better teachers. And the fact that 1 out of 5 schools was needed improvement or improvement required, and now only 1%, that shows this wasn't just about politicians and hard work and kumbaya. This was about smart policies that I think the agenda. So you got to stick with this. You've got to make sure it's tied with the business community so we know what the jobs are. This is the thing that blows me away. 41,000 jobs in our area go unfilled at $1,750 an hour and up because they're not trained. You want to deal with the poverty issue? Deal with this issue, and we'll do this. CPAL has put as their goal to cut childhood poverty by half in one generation, and education is going to be the key.
Absolutely.
But by the way,
absolutely.
I didn't do this. Hinojosa did this. Miguel Solis did this. Dustin Marshall, Edwin Flores, Dan Mitchke. You guys are my heroes. Thank you to the school board for what they have done.
And the voters did it when they supported
the voters.
All right. 8 years is a long time to be the mayor of Dallas.
Very
I think
long.
as Paul told us, you got to go back to a man named Woodall Rogers to find a mayor who has decided that it was worth...
I didn't know he was a real person.
To find somebody who's decided that it was worth sticking around for as long as you have. And as somebody who has sat through many a city council meeting, more than I like to remember, I know why they leave. I know why they leave. A lot of talented people are already saying they want to take your place. If you could speak to them, if you could say, this is what I wish I would have known then that I can tell you now, what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I probably wouldn't tell them anything because I've learned people don't take your advice. They just don't. I've left a few companies and they just don't, and it's just the way life is. But I would say what I learned is, first of all, this is, if you don't understand what a servant leader is, get the book and figure it out, because this is all about leading from the bottom. And it's beyond being a public servant. It's really serving those that work for you. I've had great city managers with Mary Soom and A.C. Gonzalez and now T.C. Brodniks. I work for them. I always tell them that. I want you to be successful. That's the way it works. And I think it's important that we understand that you don't want to be mayor, you want to do something, okay? And that doing is serving. When I have tough times, and I have had many, many tough times, I think about young people and say I'm working for them, and that helped me kind of get over there. Second, it's all about partnership, not what's in the city charter and the rules and the regulations that change or don't change and the politics about that. It's about partnering with organizations, with people, with the right folks, the philanthropists in this city. We can get so much done. Hundreds of millions of dollars have made this city work, not just in the tax rolls, but outside that. My partnership starts at home with my partner and wife.
Stand up, Mickey Rawlings.
I've got a partner in the office, my assistant for 21 years, Sandy Nelson. My son, who lectures me all the time about a myriad of things. He's an advocate for young kids in poverty and the LGBT movement and many, many other things. Gunnar, my daughter, is the feminist par excellence and an artist, and Gabby's great to be. So the family is very, very important, okay? My staff, partnering with my staff, I've got the best. Scott Goldstein, he knows I love him even though I don't act like that. Vinay Hammond took Adam McGue's spot, who did a great job in Grow South, and she's my chief of Grow South, and Patricia Blasquez, and Brenda Allen, Danelle, and all these folks have been good. So partnerships are very important. And the last thing I would tell them, or I learned, was sticking with the narrative. Tell a story and figure out how you can relate to it. And to me, it comes back to the kind of the beginning about what does this city want to be. I think this city, for me, can be the prototypical best city for North America in the 21st century. You know, we're a young kind of whippersnapper. We're out of college. You know, we're 24 years old. We got a lot of testosterone, and, you know, we're doing our things. We've got to make sure that we grow up and be all we can be, and we have that potential. Make sure that we utilize everybody's talent, not just one group. We've got to get everybody on the field to make sure that they participate. And if we do that, and the future mayors have a vision like that, I think the future is very, very bright.
Indeed. Well, it's not over yet.
7 months and 12 days.
Okay, so we still have you to kick around a little bit, right? Good.
6 months. I'm sorry.
6
I said 7
months.
months.
My
I
goodness.
said 6 months. I got it wrong.
We'll give you an extra month. But this is the beginning of the end and the beginning of the time where we begin to thank you for 8 years of service to the city of Dallas. So let me say it first here, and everyone can join me. Thank you, Mayor Mike Rawlings.
Thank you, Rudy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay here.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Rudy. Rudy, has anybody ever told you look like the author John Meacham?
Never happens. No. I think 6 times before I walked into this room.
You look a little like John Meacham.
Yeah, that's why they asked me to do it.
What a great conversation on big issues. I mean, the mobility, roads, flights, law enforcement issues, crime, pension fund, the state of our police force, Amazon HQ2, green space, income inequality and poverty, what's happening in Southern Dallas, changes in Southern Dallas, student improvements in Dallas ISD, very exciting. You kind of covered the waterfront, I thought, and I loved what the mayor said. This sort of says it all, I think, about him. When tough times come, I think about the young people, and I think about the future we're building for them. So thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, Rudy. Appreciate the conversation.
Of course.
Again, big thank you to our sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield, American Airlines, great law firm Littler, Encore, Austin College, Access, DFW Airport, Imaginuity, Interactive, Men and Women of Hunt Consolidated, West Monroe Partners. We have our next big event is in the next year. We have a lot of events coming up next year. And the first one is the biggest one of the year. It's our annual meeting. And the featured guest, that will be Jim Lentz of Toyota. He'll talk about the future of mobility. And so tickets are going fast. We still have a few left. And we have some sponsorships left, but you better sign up quick if you want to get to them. These big events don't happen by accident. We have a very talented and hardworking staff that puts these on, and they do it behind the scenes. You don't see much of their work, but they deserve a big round of applause, especially Nicole Fain and her event staff, and Priscilla Camacho and her public policy staff. They really are the ones who put this on today. Thank you. Once again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Rudy. And thanks to all of you who make so many contributions to the Chamber and to this community. Hope you have a great holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Rudy.
You got
it was great.